Welcome to the Rusted Garden Homestead. In today's 2-minute tip video, I want to show you how to use fish emulsion in your garden. We're going to cover seedlings, seeds, and plants that you've planted in containers or the ground. It's pretty straightforward. First thing that I like to do, well, actually tip number 1, don't use fish emulsion if you're going to have a garden party or any outdoor activity, barbecue, anything outside the day of the party. This does smell, so you want to give it 24 hours outside to clear up. I also don't recommend using it indoors because it does have an odor to it. First thing that I like to do is write down what the NP and K are. This is a 5 nitrogen, 1 phosphorus, 1 potassium, and it's 2 tablespoons or 1 ounce per gallon. That's how you make it. They may vary a little bit depending on what brand of fish emulsion that you buy. So this is already set up, 2 gallons of water. I put in 4 tablespoons or 2 ounces, just as it says on the bottle. Now, transplants come in different sizes, obviously. When your tomatoes are just getting started, something like this to about that size, or your transplants have been growing in the starting mix for about 2 weeks, they've germinated, they've been growing about 2 weeks, I just give them a quick splash. These are all outside. Same thing when they get bigger, you can, worry less about compressing the seedling down. What does that mean? So right in there, when the seedlings are smaller, if you're watering from the top, you can push the seedlings down, they can stick to the soil, and sometimes they die. So real quick, just soak it in. This is a foliar feed. That means it can absorb the nitrogen through the leaves, through the root system. This is a water-soluble fertilizer. That means the nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium is all water-soluble, which just means the plants can use it right away. For the seedlings, just something like that. That's plenty right here. You won't need to do that again for at least 2 weeks. Same with these are bigger. You may want to do that in 10 days or so, but 10 to 14 days for seedlings. These are leeks that I just transplanted. Now for the seed starts that you saw are outdoor seed starts. So every 10 to 14 days, they do get rained on, so the rain does rinse nutrients out. If you're using the fish emulsion indoors, I recommend doing it at half strength or quarter strength, and you can do that every 10 to 14 days. When plants are indoors, they're just not getting that rain. The nutrients will stay in the soil longer, so you don't have to overdo it for seed starts indoors. So I just put in these leek transplants yesterday. If I put in transplants, I like to give them 24 hours just to kind of establish before I hit them with the fish emulsion. But you're just going to soak it in nicely. You want to kind of eyeball it so that the emulsion is sinking down at least a good inch, and I would go all the way in or all the way down, water in my transplants. And the directions for the Alaska brand is about every 3 weeks. I would stick to about every 2 weeks. You don't need to over soak this, just get the top inch, the leaves, it's good to go. This is garlic. It's been growing nicely. There's some cilantro in there, and it's been 2 weeks since these have been watered with the fish emulsion. And again, just soak it in. You can cover the leaves, and I would cover the whole area. Right in here, I have peas that just came up. Peas don't typically need a lot of nitrogen, but for transplants, for seed starts that have just broken the surface, real quick, you don't have to overdo it. That's plenty of nitrogen to help the young seedlings really get established. Here's a tomato plant I planted early. Leafy greens that have been getting fed the fish emulsion about every 2 weeks. When my leafy greens are about ready to be harvested, I can take leaves from there. I don't like putting the fish emulsion right on top of the leaves, so I just water real quickly right down the sides. You're really feeding the root systems that are on the surface of all these plants. And then back there's arugula. That's not going to be harvested for a while, so I would just soak across and do something like that. Now I'm recommending every 2 weeks with an amount like this. You could water it heavier, you could put more into the space, do it every 3 weeks as the instructions say, but I found this really works best. Depending on how much rain you're getting, how big the plants are, the watering times vary, so I just cut it down the middle, go with every 2 weeks. Some videos, some websites might tell you to do this every week. Let me refill the container, we'll take care of the tomato. And remember that the water-soluble fertilizers have nutrients that are immediately available to the plants, so they'll be able to use them within 24 hours. For a tomato plant, really soak down the leaves, let it get into the root system. Again, this is getting to the surface roots of most of these plants. Spinning around over here, I have some pepper plants. A little bit smaller, but same idea. Is you're just soaking the leaves, getting that inch of depth into the soil, and that's all you need to do. Every 2 weeks is what I recommend. You can certainly feed them sooner, you can feed them later, and it's really based on looking at the plant. If the plant looks good and it's green and it's growing, you can wait. If the plants are large, you may have to do it more often. If the plants are smaller, less often. So you kind of have to take a look at your garden and observe what's going on. For root crops, you don't have to use as much fish emulsion. You can cut it down to half strength or feed them less frequently. The whole idea is you want your root crops to develop roots. That's what you're going to be eating, and not a lot of leafy greens. These are radishes. I would just do something like this real quick. Give them the nitrogen they need. Don't overdo it. Same for like turnips, even beets. Just don't overdo the nitrogen or you're going to get a lot of green growth, and that's not what you're growing the root crops for. I personally like to use the fish emulsion for root crops in this way. Either when I plant seeds, any seed that you're planting, you would make your seed hole, drop in the seed, cover it up, water it in with the fish emulsion, just like I've been showing you. That is plenty to help the seedlings get established. For the root crops, I kind of let it go at that point. If I didn't use the fish emulsion right away, I do like the seedlings to, you know, kind of get strong enough that they can take being poured on, basically. And I would just do the same thing. If I didn't soak them in when I put the seeds in, just soak them in now, and I'll let the beets go and do their thing. I won't be really adding any more fish emulsion to them unless I thought they were struggling and there was a need for it. And finally, container plants vary a little bit because the fertilizer, the moisture gets used up quickly. So I put more fish emulsion or more water-soluble fertilizer into the container. These are collard greens. Soak the leaves, but then you really want to spend extra time soaking in the soil so that you kind of feel like it's soaking down at least halfway into the container. When your container plants get large, they're going to be pulling the nutrients really quickly, so they need to be fed more frequently than plants planted in raised beds or earth beds. You could still go with about every 2 weeks, you know, less often when the plants are small, more often when they are bigger. If this was a large zucchini plant, I might be watering this every 7 days with the fish emulsion. You just want to keep the supply of fertilizer in your containers. Hope you enjoyed the video. It gives you some confidence for using fish emulsion as a water-soluble fertilizer in your garden. Remember, about every 2 weeks you can adjust based on the uniqueness of your garden. Please check out my seed shop at therustedgarden.com, and thanks so much for watching.